Hello everybody and welcome back to another installation of And She Rants. Today I'm actually answering a question that I get all the time in my Instagram DMs, sometimes via email, sometimes on my YouTube channel, and that is a coding bootcamp right for me? I think I get a lot of questions from people who think, oh my God, there's a success story. Should I do the same thing? Should I commit, spend the money? Like, what are the pros and cons? I have a lot of opinions about this that have probably changed over time. I'm going to offer a couple of questions that you should think about when trying to figure out if a coding bootcamp is right for you. And then I'm also going to talk through just kind of my opinion of whether or not it's worth it at this point. The first question to ask yourself if you're wondering if a coding bootcamp is right for you is, what is my overall objective? I think there are a bunch of different reasons why you can want to learn to code. Maybe you want to build your own app. That's a really common story. An entrepreneur who thinks of an app idea and they say, I really want to be able to have that technical understanding and knowledge of what's going into the application so that I can have that tech talk with engineers and participate in those conversations and move forward. If you are coming from the perspective of, I just want to learn more about coding, I just want to have that base level, I don't think a coding bootcamp is for you if you simply want to understand tech. Feel free to do so if you're sitting on a pile of money, but if you are not, I would not recommend that as being the route to go. There are actually a couple of other options I would suggest. I would suggest if you just want to get your feet wet in learning and understanding how to code and having some kind of technical base, I would go on a website, like maybe start with Code Academy. Not my favorite. My favorite would probably be Udemy, and sign up for a course, learning whatever languages that interest you and kind of getting that understanding. What you have to realize is that even if you go to a coding bootcamp and you learn a particular language, you don't necessarily have an understanding of other frameworks. And a lot of people who are working in tech have had 4-year degrees where they learned the fundamentals of computer science, which is actually a lot larger than just learning how to build an app. There is a misconception of how much knowledge you're getting out of a 3-month program and how useful it's going to be for you. I think it's a great starting place, but there's a lot more work that's going to go into having the lingo, the language, and the understanding to have a dialogue about technical debt or technical knowledge with other developers. So be cautious of that. If you're coming from the perspective of I want to change my career and I want to be a software engineer or whatever engineer, maybe you want to do a non-traditional engineering role, but you know that this is the foundation. I do think that it's possible that a bootcamp is the right step for you. There are a lot of other factors that you have to consider, which we'll get into later. But I think coming from the perspective of saying, I want to work in this industry as an engineer, it actually could be helpful to you to kind of learn those fundamental building blocks of building an application. I think that a bootcamp can be helpful to someone who is specifically looking for a role in engineering. I am not a strict software engineer. I know how to build mobile apps, and that is not what I do at my job. That is not the engineering role that I have. And I think that's a bit of confusion that people have sometimes. So you have to consider what kind of role you want to play, but also be realistic with yourself. Give yourself time while you're learning. And afterwards, this is going to be a long journey. You're starting something new, something really exciting, a really important and useful skill set that some people had 4 years to build. So 3 months is only the foundation of your knowledge. That is to say that a coding bootcamp is not necessarily a get-rich-quick solution for someone who wants to be a strict software engineer. The second question to ask yourself if you're trying to figure out if a coding bootcamp is right for you is, what is my learning style? Can I learn things on my own, or do I need to be in a structured classroom to be successful? I say that because there's a cost benefit of deciding to be in a bootcamp. You could actually learn all of the things you learn in a bootcamp on your own if you have the commitment to actually learning a new skill set and have the time frame and the capacity to do so. So I did a full-time coding bootcamp where I was at this program Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But I was there beforehand and there afterwards with all of my classmates. They were literally all burning the midnight oil, trying to finish projects and be frustrated when things weren't building. I had to do it that way because I was not going to take the time that structured time every day and actually commit to teaching myself. I needed the accountability of a classroom, of money spent, of a teacher that I could ask questions to in person. I had to understand my learning style and what I needed and weigh the cost benefit of, I'm willing to spend this amount of money for the return of the accountability that will help me actually get this done faster, because that's my goal right now. But if you have time and you're simply just interested in learning, and if you know I could get this done and make myself learn this in my own time, then I would not say that you should do a boot camp. Save your money, okay? Save yourself the money, save yourself the energy and all of the expense of doing it, and literally enroll in an online course. Go to Udemy. If you can afford to take a course at like maybe an extension school, those are options. Like UCLA teaches some coding classes in extension school. Decide what language you want to learn. Give yourself the freedom of not having to just learn how to build a mobile app. Maybe you want to learn how to automate certain tasks that you have at work, and you want to start learning Python. Like, go take Python courses online, take your time with your learning, give yourself the space and the time to learn it, and really dig deep and dive into it without the pressure of 3 months and then it's over and here we are and what have you created? And I think some people work really well under that pressure and some people don't. Know yourself, know what you need in terms of learning, and commit to that and make the decision there. But weigh all the cost benefits of your time and all of that. The third and final thing to ask yourself is, you need to ask yourself, can I afford to do a coding bootcamp? Okay, so I've decided I want to learn, I want to be a software engineer eventually. And I've decided I'm not going to do this unless I enroll in a class or I'm committed or have some kind of strict accountability. Now you're getting to the point where it's like, can I afford it? Can I afford the time? Can I afford the cost? Can I afford all of the investment that I'm going to put into actually taking this boot camp? My boot camp was full time, okay? 3 months. Some people's boot camps are 6 months and part-time, 6 months and full-time, 1 year and part-time. Like, there are various ways that you can enroll in a boot camp, but there is a cost of time that you're going to put into doing this. Do you have the time and the space to commit to this? You cannot put half of your energy into learning to code. This is like, it's like, how some classes you had in college and maybe you didn't attend all the time and maybe you just, you just coasted on through and maybe you just watched the lectures from your bed. I never did that. I'm saying maybe you did that. This is not that time. Like, learning to code is not one of those, I'm going to coast through this, unless you are a genius, in which case I commend you. But for someone like me, particularly coming from a completely different field where I graduated with a degree in government and a secondary degree in African American studies, literally nothing to do with computer science at all. There may be some people who coast through things, but this is not a thing that you can coast through. This is a real time commitment and a real investment for someone coming from a non-traditional field to actually get a return on your investment. So you have to know whether or not you can have the time to afford to learn this new skill. And the other thing is that it's very expensive. My bootcamp was discounted and was $10,000. Let me say that again. My bootcamp was discounted and the discounted price was $10,000. Okay? Mind you, I did not have $10,000 lying around. I didn't have someone to give me $10,000 at that moment just lying around. Sure, here we got you. So I had to take out a loan. And guess what? Because this was a boot camp, it's not no federal loan. The interest rate was not considerate. The interest rate was very disrespectful, okay? Very disrespectful. And so you have to consider that. And paying it back is pretty much immediate. Oh, your course is done, you're paying. Oh, you're still in your course, you have to start paying. So you have to understand whether or not you can actually afford to take out a loan, or, maybe you have the ability to get money from somewhere. Maybe you can, you can look into some scholarships, like Grace Hopper has a boot camp and they have some scholarships, but that's not necessarily what you can fall back on. Are you still going to do the boot camp if you don't get that scholarship? And do you know how you would plan to pay for it? Because it's expensive and it's not a game. And $10,000 is a discounted price. The average boot camp is like $15,000. And in person, like 3-month boot camp, 12 weeks, full time, $15,000. Okay? So can you afford to do a boot camp? Valid question. If you can't, there are still options for you. This is not a question of whether or not you can learn to code. This is a question of whether or not the way that you learn to code is through a coding bootcamp. Everybody's learning style is different. You have to know yours and understand that it's okay if you don't take the same path as your neighbor. You just got to get there. You just got to commit to saying, this is what I want to do, and you just got to get there. So I think, ask yourself, are the costs worth it for me, and can I afford to do this? Those are just some of my questions that I would recommend that you ask yourself when you're trying to figure out if a coding bootcamp is right for you. Now, would I recommend someone do a bootcamp genuinely from my perspective? Probably not. If you asked me, would I do it the same way again? Would I? Yes. I think one of the big things about boot camps that I'm starting to realize is that I feel like a lot of them are losing their integrity. Don't know who I'm targeting when I say this. I really apologize. But in my opinion, a lot of boot camps are losing their integrity because they have to build themselves off of a business model that kind of guarantees something that can't necessarily happen. So I'm not really sure if I'm confident in boot camps and their longevity and whether or not they're actually effective. If you have questions, continue to ping me. Maybe I'll do a part 2 series on boot camps and just give more information. That's all I have to say. I'm starting to ramble, so I'm gonna go. Coding boot camps. Money, 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 money. Subscribe, like, comment. Let me know if you've done a boot camp, if you have questions or any of that. And I'll see you next time for the next rant. Bye.